So 3D printers are pretty cool because they could print some really fun things or some really useful things. So in my last video, I have reviewed 4 of the craziest 3D prints I found on Maker World. And in my opinion, that video did pretty good, which is exactly why we are testing out 3 more cool 3D prints I found. And just like last time, we are going to test if these prints are worth your filament or if they belong in the bin. I will be reviewing each print based on all of these. Anyways, let's hop right in. And first up, we got the Q-tip crossbow. So basically what this thing does is fire 3 Q-tips at once. This thing took 42 minutes to print and used 21 grams of filament. Anyways, let's test it. So first, we gotta load it. This thing is not fitting through the hole, which obviously isn't good. So we gotta do the only logical thing and cut it. So now that these things are cut, we will now attempt to see if it fits. So we will get our crossbow, and it fits. All right, now that our crossbow is loaded, we will be going to test it. But first, we gotta bring this back, and we will now do a firing test in 3, 2, why is the... What the f... So it didn't fire, so we will try to angle it down and fire. Whoa, so now we know that it works, but how far can it shoot? So the goal is right there, and what we are trying to do is see how far these Q-tips can go. So in 3, 2, 1. So one went right here, another one went here, and another one went here. As you guys could see, they completely failed to enter the room. Now, would I print this again? Well, that depends. If I wanted to mess around with this with my friends, I would definitely print it again. Other than that, I don't really see a reason for it. Now, is this thing worth printing? I'm going to have to say yeah. Even though this thing can't really shoot that far, it is quite fun to play with. The only problem is how hard it is to move this back and how hard it is to fire. But other than that, it's pretty good. Anyways, it's time for the next 3D print. This thing is the same idea as the Q-tip crossbow, but instead of Q-tips, it fires toothpicks. This thing takes an hour to print and uses 36 grams of filament. Anyways, let's see if it works. So I got my toothpick right here, so let's load it. Now it's time for the firing test. So in 3, 2, 1. This thing is pretty good. But now it is time for the range test. All right, we have the same goal as last time. We will see how far it can possibly go. So we will fire in 3, 2, 1. So the toothpick went all the way over here. I was a bit worried this thing wouldn't work at first, but I am a bit relieved that it does. Now, would I print this thing again? Well, it is quite satisfying to use. And it does use a pretty cool mechanism. So I'm gonna give it the same reason as the crossbow, and I'm going to say that if I wanted to mess around with this with my friends, then yeah, I would definitely print this again. Now, is this thing worth printing? I'm also going to say yeah again, because it does make a satisfying sound when you squeeze this thing. And it does work. It's quite fun to play with. So I say that if you are bored, then go ahead and print it. Anyways, it is now time for the third and final print. And last but not least is this 3D printed motor. This thing uses a pretty simple mechanism to fire these 3D printed shells right here. By using this 3D printed spring that goes into this button, you just press it and the projectile should just launch straight up into the air. This thing took 4.6 hours to print and used 106 grams of filament. Now the question is, does this thing work? But before we test it, we need an extremely qualified person. All right, now that I am qualified, we will now be testing the cannon. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, this thing comes with 2 different shell types, a small one and a big one. First, we're going to test the small projectile. Whoa! So now we're going to try the big one. Whoa! That was cool. But now it is time for the range test. Just like the last 2, we will see how far this thing can go. First, we will start with the small projectile. So we're gonna load it, and then we will fire in 3, 2, 1. So it just completely fell to the stairs. So let's see if the second one can fire at the door. So we now have the big one. So we're gonna load it, and then we are going to fire it. And it went further this time, so that's nice. So this thing doesn't really have the same range as the other 2, but I think it's pretty cool though. I am now going to comment my thoughts on this thing, but first, it is getting hot in this costume, so that's much better. Anyways, would I print this thing again? Well, it is pretty fun to play with, so maybe if I was bored, I'd print this again, but other than that, I don't really see a need for this. Now, would I say this thing is worth printing? I'm going to say yeah for this one. The button is quite satisfying to press. And even though it doesn't have a lot of range, it is quite fun to play with. Now, these are all great, but which one is the worst? After doing a bit of testing that was too long for me to put in the video, I've come to the conclusion that this thing is the worst, since it has the least amount of range out of all of them. I am super sorry whoever made this. It is super cool, but it will be going in the bin. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.